prediction for most ones. This is why I'm going to go for the prediction of 2-0.
And here we go into game number 1 of match number 2 of TFT at EWC. We have Virtus.pro versus Team Falcons, the favorites versus the underdogs here. Who will come out on top?
Absolutely. Getting on here into game 1 with Team Falcons versus Virtus.pro. And Tamura, based off of what we've seen in the first series already of the day, is there anything that's standing out to you that's different than what you've expected?
The first game, there wasn't as much priority on Sorks. I just thought that the Sorcerer line was a common standard one that more people would go towards, but then they completely, brought me back to where I thought it would be in the next game. We saw multiple people contesting it. We saw multiple people taking Invested to just roll down all their gold and guaranteed deny, because if you can deny the other Sork player from hitting Karma 2, it slows them down a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Only having 10 of those units for the 4 costs in the pool, right? It's so easy to deny 2 stars. We've seen a lot of denying across, I think, this whole tournament we're going to see. As soon as a player locks into a line, it's like, all right, how can we prevent them from reaching their ceiling? Exactly what we're going to see here in these games.
Yeah, and these players are very dialed in at playing defense. Some would argue a little bit too much. We did actually see that be the case. Some players were holding on to a little bit too much of the units, and it meant that they couldn't hit their own.
Yeah, exactly. I don't forget who it was, but there was a player who was holding like 8 Nars on the bench and then just immediately got eliminated in 7th or 8th place. And it's like, all right, you only had a 1 star on your backline as a carry, so maybe you should have sold some of those units, try to go for the win out. But if they weren't in a position to win, right, you want to pull up your teammates who are in a good spot, right? And just deny the ones from the enemy team who are in that best spot to contest.
Yeah, we saw in the first game that player was actually, SCSC was able to run away with the GP, but we've seen multiple people get dropped the GP in this game here, so I definitely don't think anyone's going to be getting an uncontested GP line. Unfortunately for Shelty only picking up the over 9,000, I do believe for a split second we got to see Stretchy Arms picked up by a different player.
Ooh, okay. Stretchy Arms obviously going to be the line for GP, the best in slot power up there. Jin 2 was presented to Shelty, but going to just sell it for 10 gold econ, right? Very, very important, especially if you're going to get to those breakpoints to reroll a composition.
And there we go, Maris, as we've talked about, the headliner, the man to watch out for VP. You can see there, not only has access to the Stretchy Arms, does have the IE Slam if they want it, and then just needs a lot of bows. Now, the awkward part about this spot is you need multiple bows. If you can get the IE online, then you can go for Rageblade as well as Kraken. But if you slam items now, you might be a little bit too strong, and you know that the bows are going to get denied.
Yeah, exactly, right? The IE potential was there, but you gotta, take that risk maybe if you think you're going to get those items, but if not, just going to leave them on the bench for now. See Li Tuchuan here with a Midas Touch Jin opener. Nothing too crazy. Potentially a Kennen 2 in the shop there as well. But we do have a trainer here with a Wraith emblem. Mech as well.
Yep. Soul Fighter, Wraith. Yeah, that one's got Wraith, Soul Fighter.
Yeah.
So we did see actually Soul Fighter do surprisingly well. I didn't have Soul Fighter on my meta card. I didn't think that too many players would default towards it. But not playing for first, but decently strong line as well. But with Wraith as well, a little bit awkward because the benefits to both of these traits is that the damage that they contribute with Wraith works towards the extra damage you're going to be getting. With Soul Fighter, they're going to be getting a lot of extra AD and AP. The problem is when it's stuck on a dummy, it doesn't do the same thing. So a lot of times when you get the dummy, you'd prefer something else.
Yep, absolutely. So maybe some players could just ignore the dummy entirely, right? We do see some games sometimes where you get that Wandering Trainer from just the encounter, right? And it's like, okay, I don't really have a good line to go along with this, so I should just go what I'm offered in my shops and where the game is naturally driving me to.
And it looks like Lichao's tried to play around a Katarina line, which we've seen do well and also fall flat if you get denied, which we know is definitely going to be the case. But unfortunately, picking up the Portable Forge didn't manage to find something for Katarina. There's a couple of different options that you can actually go towards. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Maybe the Tricksters onto the Rakan will be decent enough. As we've seen, Rakan 3 is usually hit more frequently than Katarina because they don't play as much defense on Rakan.
Yeah, definitely. Katarina really the one that people want to deny, but Rakan is kind of the unsung hero of the composition in some ways. Rakan definitely such a solid frontliner for a 2 cost. A lot of value in that unit. Li Xiao, however, for now, just going on a bit of a loss streak, even though we have the power up on Katarina with the Hero's Arc, the items already slammed, right, with that Hand of Justice, but it's not going to be good enough. Maybe to save some HP, right? I think that's what Li Xiao really wants to do right now.
And actually had really good leftover components, because we've got an item component opener, which means that players have a lot more flexibility, a lot more things that they can slam. But he had, Hodge, half of Guardbreaker, and then he also had half of Edge of Night. So he was in a good spot.
Absolutely. Hopefully getting one of those items on this coming carousel. but going to be facing up against their teammate right now, Li Tuchuan. Actually had found a Jin too, another Jin in the shop. Going to be seeing if a round win comes through, maybe can pick that one up, but it looks like Jin is just going to be an item holder for now, so just having it as a bridge unit to get into that mid game and make that swap work.
And with these items, he's telling a very clear story. We've seen that the Cassante Akali line has been very, very powerful if you can get to it. And by slamming these very, I'd say, unconventional Jin items, it kind of lets us know, okay, he's going to be trying to kill units and then getting to that position. And then you don't necessarily need to find the Varus, and you effectively get a +1 when playing that flexible board.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of players will underestimate the power of slamming these early game items, right? They're not best in slot by any means. In fact, they're not very good, but they might just be the difference of saving some HP or getting some extra round wins, right, to bridge that gap once again. And we do see one spatula on this stage 2 carousel, Tamara, and it's picked up by Li Xiao.
Yeah, okay, so that is a way to potentially cap out a little bit higher. And something that's really important to note is that when you do pick up the spatula in the earlier game, it can be really awkward because if you don't get your true best in slot on your items, having that extra spatula doesn't really do anything. It's more of a luxury. However, if you have an item open in Galaxy, now you have a lot more flexibility to be able to pick up that spatula.
Yeah, a lot of options here. You don't want it to be just a dead component there. Maybe a high roll on a carousel and you're able to make it into a Tactician's Crown or something of the sort, but we'll have to see in the future. We're now looking at Kian here, Virtus.pro's win streaker here along with NCC1. They're not facing each other yet though, and these rounds are very important, right? Getting these streaks up until the PvE round.
Yep. And slightly more conventional items, I would argue, there towards the Ezreal as well as the Mundo. So going up against this Jin 2, there's a lot of frontline to deal with, but I think Kian's come to play with a lot of his own. So we're going to be able to take out the backline. That Edge of Night is going to give Jin a second life. However, there's just way too much frontline on the side of Kian, and it has taken an Econ augment in order to play tempo. So very, very powerful, and I think even better in 4v4 because now you have that one player with the HP advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. HP advantages, you can do so much with it. It dictates kind of the pace of the game and how your team wants to play around that. We have a player level 6, right? Milo from Virtus.pro. No item slammed though, which is interesting enough. Just sacked the first few rounds and now maybe looking to make this into a bit of a win streak here.
Yep, so a lot of flexibility, taking that time skip, so not really able to play the early game, but it does mean that you're going to come back hitting harder, especially towards the end of stage 2, but mostly in stage 3, once you can actually figure out what you're doing. And yeah, not slamming those items means that once you come out of the time skip and you start to see some of those higher value units in your shops, maybe you might want to make a different decision, or once you see your Krogs components.
Yeah, absolutely. Stretchy arms on the Volibear here for now. Probably not going to be sticking with us for so long, but does run into Maris, who is sacking these rounds. So an easy win there on the tail end of stage 2. Kiana as well, these items looking for this AP direction, right? Maybe Sorks, you were saying didn't see too much of Sorks early on, but still a very powerful composition. In fact, the same exact items on the other side there from Ning Li as well.
I did make the prediction of the 2-0, but I am honestly quite worried about this spot because VP's looking to be in a phenomenal position. I do believe we got to see the treasure hunt as well picked up, which is a great way to play for first. Yeah. And then they also have players like Kian, NCC. They've got 2 players who've managed to streak the whole way. And it's not like Milo's in a bad position either. They're all in really good tempo spots. And then you have a win-out player as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say every single player is in a good spot on Virtus.pro, actually. 2 win streakers, 1 full loss streaker, and then Milo, who went the time skip, right? It's exactly kind of how that playstyle wants to go, is now going to be very ahead, even though they're kind of middling in the HP right now.
Yep, and not only is Maris able to play around the treasure hunt, he's also playing it with the GP. So GP gives you even more money. So as long as you just 2-star the GP, you can get more money, you can spend it on more rolls, and you're going to be continuously burying up that treasure, and you're going to be in a very comfortable position. And honestly, sitting at 71 HP, I've seen worse.
Definitely have seen worse, right? It's when you get into the 60s that you kind of want to be worried. But it's all about the GP, like you say. I think we're going to be repeating that phrase all throughout the weekend and forward right into this competition. Here's a GP2 from Shelty here. It kind of just has a smattering of random items, right? This looks like it's not going to be what's on the endgame board, but it is going to be preserving a lot of HP for now. Unfortunately, Shelty wasn't able to fully win streak out, right? Ran into either Kian or NCC1 in stage 2, but still in a solid spot here. Just got to see what the pivot's going to be.
Yeah, it does have access to that salvage bin, so is going to be able to change up those items a little bit later. I think we did see a spark there on towards the bench on that Viego. which is great. You know, you have the rod, you can make the Rage Blade later, but unfortunately no bows. And so that's really, really crucial because you need 2 of them for GP. And then getting excess, you can make some other items. So that's definitely what his priority is going to be when looking towards carousels. But I'm sure that VP is going to be looking at his spot and going, okay, guys, I know your spot might be bad for a bow, but you need to be taking it on carousel.
Yeah, absolutely, right? It's that got to play for the team at some points. Got to play for the team. And we get our second augment phase coming through. Another gold here. We re-roll into high voltage. Epoch quiet quitting as well.
So quiet quitting, a little bit awkward when you are playing around this Katarina's. You probably want to be as strong as possible right now.
Yeah.
Roll down a little bit. You could take it, maybe play for the win out. I've seen that a couple of times, and then you have a lot of money to really roll and hit. But by that point in a 4v4 environment, a lot of the Katarinas might be taken, and you're going to be rolling with much worse odds.
Yeah, in general in TFT, we're used to, okay, maybe you'd be AFK in the first few rounds of the game, but on 3-2, it's a lot more awkward because that's really when you want to start, making your composition be able to last in that mid game, and to be sacking a few rounds right now is a little awkward.
Yeah, as we get another view of some of the other options, Healing Orbs. Now that is a much better pickup there for when playing around the Katarina.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Exactly. We mentioned this in the previous game, I think. Someone was playing around the Healing Orbs, the Katarina, just because she's going to be so close to a unit that dies. She gets the kill, she gets back up to full health, and is actually going to go for the Tricksters on the Katarina, so really would have liked that to be something else, but for now, it's decently strong.
Yeah, we have that +1 unit coming through from Li Xiao as well, right? Was able to make that spatula into a completed Tactician's item, and we see the power of that Katarina right now, right? As Tricksters for now, it will already have procced the Edge of Night, though, and it does go down, so still not stable, still 7 losses in a row.
Yeah, and a little bit awkward, sitting on 3 components. There's a decent amount there sitting there, but just you couldn't really make any more Katarina items, couldn't make any utility, didn't have that duo carry set up because you really just want extra tank items for your Rakan, and the combination of items just wasn't what you want to see.
Yeah, especially going into the middle of stage 3, right? You're not going to want any of those item components on your bench. You're going to want to be using them to get value. But Kian, still the only player, 100 HP and win streaking. We see Shelty here unflinching on the gangplank, but a few really good items. No Edge of Night, though.
No Edge of Night, but I've talked about having no bows, but then has managed to pick up the lucky magnetic remover as well as the extra resources there, and has managed to convert his items into some pretty nice looking ones there. So having the unflinching, having no Edge of Night, especially in the mid game, can be a little bit awkward. I do believe once you get towards the stretchy arms, you can have this set up and avoid the Edge of Night if you think that your GP will be safe and the rest of your front line keeps alive. But a little bit risky right now, but I think this is still a decent spot to play tempo. And it's going to be denying the other, I believe it was Maris who was looking to play GP as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And a really good spot, 5 wins there. We see that Rage Blade. Kraken's IE, just a ton of damage output from that GP right now. The front line is, not the most amazing right now. It's going to just be an Udyr 1 with a few items, but getting into stage 3 carousel here. Jan still winning, but Maris and Milo having first pick here.
Yep, and looking at the forecast, nothing's really standing out to me. The Soul Fighter's been out of flavor after the B patch, so we've seen a little bit of it, but definitely not the craziness that we've seen previously. And the bow is there picked up from Milo, so didn't look like a GP player needed to get too many bows, so that wasn't as issue as much. As we even see one forecast making it all the way towards the end. Ashe, another unit where it's only really picked up in that very niche line of, I have a Crystal Gambit +1, I need this Ashe.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be a very strong composition, right? But like you're saying, need a specific spot to get into that line. You'll see that Boulevard being the item carry for now on that previous board. For this one, Maris is going to be rolling down, has 4 gangplanks right now, 3 Kubukos. But this is going to be the commitment. This is the line. Rolling semi-deep here for not that much, it seems. Diz going to get that little bit of reward from the rolls.
Does manage to finally proc that treasure hunt and gets themselves a little bit of extra items, I believe. So, but he was trying to play defense a little bit, to be honest, but it's so hard to play defense in this line. You have so many mentors that you want to 3-star all of them. Picks up a couple of the GPs, but is going to be contested. Look, this two players can hit GP3 theoretically, but it's even harder in a 4v4. If one player hits GP, then the rest of their teammates are going to be holding on to it after he hits the 3-star.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, right, that composition wants it a lot of 3 stars ideally, wants it the Yasuo 3, wants it the Kabuko 3, but it's going to be a lot of gold to do all of that. The GP, right, gets you through stage 3, maybe some of stage 4 with the GP 2, but what happens after that, right, when everyone's rolling down for their level 8 boards, their sorcerers, their Yumis, right, these very, very high power stage 4 comps, you might just be kind of left in the dust.
Yeah, and a lot of these players will actually opt into going level 7 before 3-starring their 2 costs, which is great because now you can start to pick up rises, and you only really need 1 before you can get the comp online. The only problem with that is this isn't a very high econ galaxy. Sure, Maris has decent econ, especially from some of his wins, but to push all the way to level 7 and then still use money to proc your treasure hunt, it's going to be using a lot of money there for Maris. So a little bit awkward, but we know that this is an augment treasure hunt that can play for the win out.
Yeah, definitely. See Unstoppable picked up for the power-up for the Udyr there, right? It's one of the best ones, right? Just the CC, the HP, not being able to be CC'd as well. It's just so much power. Going to be seeing that one picked up a lot throughout the week. Kian as well, still 100 HP. May be able to make a 10-win streak here happen.
And he's still carrying an Ezreal as well, so
yeah,
he's waiting to do his most likely 4-1. You can see he's pumped all of his gold into the levels there, but he's going up against a very powerful GP board, and even has the Edge of Night there, so the Ezreal has no hope of ever killing this, and he has to deal with the front line of an Udyr as well. So decent run there from Kian, so still going to be in a very comfortable position and has a lot of money to roll down with.
Yeah, absolutely. If that win came through there, it's like, okay, maybe this is like a for sure, like I can go level 9 perhaps, or I can have so much gold to roll on level 8 to stabilize my board. It's still in a good spot though, even though that loss did come through. Already going to 8 and rolling before everybody else on neutrals, I think is really, really good, especially if players are going to be contesting those lines. See, same thing with NCC1 there, going to level 8 on the neutrals.
Yeah, just having the luxury of having first pick when you're rolling down for your 4 costs, as long as you don't miss out and your shops are full with too many of the other units. But even then, you're going to be picking up units that other players might want. You can deny them as well. So it really just comes down to that luxury of having excess gold. As we do get a look at Shelty's board, who's managed to go to level 7 and does have 50 gold, so is able to roll down quite a lot. Is still playing the 4 duelist variant, so it's going to be continuously rolling until we can get towards that rise. We do have the Yasuo 2 and the Koboko there on towards the sideline. Ooh. As we do see Milo's rolling down quite a bit here.
Yeah, rolling down a lot, but for what, right? We've upgraded a couple of units here. Kabuko 2, Udyr 2 on the bench. But it's a Volibear 1 still with the stretchy arms carrying these items. Round 2 on the set 1 as well, which is a great power-up, but set 1 just might not be enough. NCC1 going the Sorcerer direction. Did not find a Gwen yet. It's just very key for this comp.
And he has 2 Sorcerer spats, so he manages to get another fan there, so he's picked up that and has excess rods. And the strange thing about the Sorcerer line is you don't actually need that many rod items. You can see the Karma's actually getting away with just 1 rod there. And so he can use them, and he actually has 7 Sorcerers. So Sword plus 1s is good, but you get too many, and a lot of the Sorcerers are crucial anyway, so you don't really want to drop them.
Yeah, it's a very interesting spot here, having those two emblems. In fact, that's probably like too much of a good thing, honestly. When Gwen finds its way onto the board, that's going to be 8th Sorcerer, right? Where's the Prismatic Sorcerer, right? We need a chase trait for this.
Exactly, and you can see he's finally rolling down here, and as I mentioned, that did actually miss out on the JG because he made that Sorcerer, so maybe it was a little bit too quick here. As we can see some final options here. Keepers potentially picked up later. Okay, so Keepers just to provide a little bit more shielding. A bit awkward, I would argue. The only good thing I'd say about Keepers with the Sorcerer line is you really want to be blowing up that weak side, so you can kind of position your Sorcerers to have that Keepers value and then clump them, try and kill someone, but usually Keepers is favored more towards the melee matchups.
Yeah, we see Milo here has picked up a Twisted Fate, so looking to play around that unit right there, right? Volibear 1 wasn't quite cutting it. Still middling in HP with 47, but here we go. Li Xiao hits Katarina 3, 1 away from Rakan 3 as well. A lot of power that just got found for this board.
And we also saw, so it had to actually take the extra dupes from the 4-2 augment selection there, which makes sense because I think we saw every single player on VP was holding on to as many.
Deny.
Everyone was holding on to Katarinas. And unfortunately, that meant that had to use the dupes there on towards the Katarina, despite being very close to Rakan. So hitting the Rakan 3 would have been very, very nice. But of course, in a 4v4 environment, you don't really always have the luxury of playing to win out.
No, unfortunately you don't. Sometimes you gotta be the sacrificial lamb of your team, but that's a good thing to recognize in a team format, right? Is your position relative to the rest of your team, let alone the lobby, does change throughout the game, and you gotta be willing to adapt and able to adapt on the spot.
You see that Shelty's actually managed to take the GP2 and push it all the way up to a fast 8. So we do have access to the 4 mentor now, and has completely given up on trying to contest Maris on playing for GP3 because that's just not viable. So now he can tell the rest of his team, okay guys, I'm not going for GP3. You guys need to hold on to as many copies as possible, and we can try and slow down this Maris player who can play for a win out because of his augments.
Yeah, and here we go. We see the direction that this Wraith on the dummy is going, and it's going to be all-out Cassante here. It's just going to be tier 1. The items are not quite best in slot, but they are still rather good. But not having a lot of HP to work with and on a 9-loss streak, Li Tuchan is going to have a long way to go before they're able to stabilize here, but does it start now?
Yeah, and also managed to pick up the hemorrhage there for the Akali, so very, very powerful. You see Milo's actually playing towards that solo TF backline. However, if you can have the Akali positioned right, she'll get onto the TF, and then you just saw there, ulted once, jumped back, and then it was dead. Yep. Really good item to pick up there. Doesn't have access to something like the Rabadon, so maybe if they had like a 2-star 4 cost, you wouldn't be able to kill it as quickly. But the thing about Akali is she'll just keep casting, drops aggro, and just does so much damage that she will be able to take out the backline. Yeah,
that composition works so well, right? Cassante is just this absolute beast with all out, and Kali is jumping around everywhere, getting all this damage in the backline with hemorrhage as well, like you said, a fantastic tool to do that. As both 5 costs in this carousel were picked up, it was the Zyra, was the Varus as well.
Yeah, so Milo's transition unfortunately mustn't have gone that well because we were looking at this setup before, and Maris was the only one from VP who really looked to be in a risky but, win-out position. Everyone else seemed to be in a very comfortable either win streaking or just had a lot of resources to work with. But Milo's gone fast 8. I do believe that he rolled quite early just to play a little bit of defense, but has had to play a slightly unconventional line, and it doesn't look like it's working out that well.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Li Xiao, however, right, even after hitting that Katarina, has not stabilized, still losing out in some rounds, right? And Rakan is a big tool for that. Doesn't even have 3 items, right? Just has the Tricksters and the Ionic Spark to enable a bit more Katarina damage, but that Rakan is not nearly as tanky as you would like to see out of a lot of other compositions that feature this same kind of style.
And not being able to 3-star both of them, despite the fact that you've taken double dupes, just makes the cap that much lower. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's how you have to play 4v4 though. So playing these 2-cost reroll lines when you're locked in and you have to hit the 3-stars is so risky because we've seen it. The Katarina players, they almost always end up taking these extra champion dupes, but what if they miss that? What if they don't get that on 4-2? So many of the Katarinas are already out of the pool.
Yep, then it's like absolutely doomed. You're just kind of wasting an augment at that point. And even the augment seems to be getting, just kind of half value here because like you're saying, right, the Rakan wasn't found. There's another Jace, right, but not going to be looking for that to be a massive carry for the team. As players' HP drops dangerously low, it is going to be Team Falcons, right? First to perhaps fall here. Li Xiao and Li Tuchuan on 11 and 14 HP respectively. Team Falcons, one of the favorites coming into this event, are perhaps looking to be upset already by Virtus.pro.
Yeah, the position's really not looking that good. As you see, they do have someone up top of the front, is preserving a decent amount of HP, but the 2 players down the bottom means that they're going to need to start winning some of these matchups, and it looks like we are going to be, I think, sacking. There's a Karma 2 there. Ningle is taking off his items to make it easier for this Akali 2 to be able to take out the rest of the board. Is still stuck on Cassante 1. However, okay, does put the items on towards the Karma at the end. Manages to maybe get an extra kill or 2,
yeah.
But obviously a little bit too late. Wasn't able to take out too many. But with Maris being in such a strong position playing around the GP.
Li Xiao's out.
Yeah, it's getting quite scary for the Falcons here.
Yeah, Kian just a bit too strong there with that Yuumi and took out Li Xiao. Milo, 6 HP, right? It would be fantastic for Team Falcons if Milo would be going out in 7th. That leaves a lot more wiggle room, only perhaps needing a 1st and a 3rd at that point to win out on the game.
We do see some of the other players. We did see that Milo was playing around the TF, so potentially could cap quite high, but Shelty, from a very early position, recognized that he was going to G2 and then push levels. So he's not playing around the reroll line. So we'll have to see, Maris. It's good to get a look. And Maris has already hit the GP3. So playing around not only GP3, but also the treasure hunt means that Maris is it's going to be all eyes on him to try and go first this lobby, which means that, honestly, Milo could go out in 7th and VP would still be in a very comfortable position.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great recognition, right? If you're contested, it's always a conversation of like, okay, do I just roll down to try to hit the unit as well, right? The GP in Shelty's case, but no, made a very strong decision to say, all right, I'm in a good spot. I can just push these levels and has so much gold, right? Just last round on the neutrals had like 70 plus gold to work with and be able to push to 9 and make that composition capped out in just a large board sense.
Yep, so all eyes on Milo here, who is only going to be on 1 life as well as this run. Going up against GP, so that's most likely going to be one more fallen member there for Falcons. So we'll have to see. Milo, it looks like he's losing this matchup, is going up against a very powerful Sorkboard. However,
popping off.
They don't have enough damage to get through the volley bear, and that's going to be 1 extra life there for VP. So VP now in a very, very comfortable position.
Absolutely. A lot of healing on that Volley Bear, right? The BT, the Sterix get that extra shield and HP as well. And yeah, Li Chuchuan goes out in 7th. So now we are going to need to see Ning Li and Shelty get 1st and 2nd place if Team Falcons is going to win Game 1. This might just be the day of upsets, Tamura, but it's a bit too early to say for now.
Yeah, I just don't think anyone can rival Maris. And so having 2 Falcon players go out in 7-8 means they need that 1-2. And if you have a player, if you have a player like Maris, I don't even know if they can, if they're going to be able to get even close to the points. It's looking like this first match is going to be very, very heavily favored towards VP, as we do see that Milo is going up against Shelty. Shelty's got a decently strong board there, but unfortunately is not playing around. You see GP2 still doing quite well, but got a little bit confused there, honestly. I think the volley bear was jumping all over the place. He didn't know where to go.
Yeah, oh, there we go. Jumping to the right targets now. That's going to be Milo winning the round up against Shelty. And yeah, Virtus.pro just looking in such a good spot here. Here's some players getting hyped up behind us as well, right? Yep. These are the pivotal rounds of the game. And oh, that's it. It's going to be Virtus.pro, right? Taking game number 1 as Ning Li falls.
We got a little bit of that in the background, yeah. The clapping from the VP players. They're quite happy with that. Yeah, okay, so definitely not a 2-0. Maybe a 2-0 from VP. Honestly, they looked pretty solid. They chose good lines. It looked like the Falcons kind of just gave up on Maris, though. I don't know, maybe Maris just got really lucky with his GP rolls, but it feels like every single player, when denying Katarinas, you look around, they all have like 2 or 3 each. When it came to GP, I feel like he was fine, because he didn't have a lot to begin with. He only had a couple of copies.
Which must have just high rolled, right? Sometimes that's what that's what happens. You just kind of roll down and say, oh, GP in the shop, oh, 2 GPs in this shop, right? And all of a sudden you just have the GP3, even if a few are denied, right? That's TFT for you. It is inherently a game of variance at the end of the day. Milo does go out there, but this is interesting, kind of just looking holistically at this game, looking at Team Falcons coming into this one, right? The stars were, players who won EWC last year for the TFT portion, right? Li Xiao and Shelty. Li Xiao went 8th this game, even though they had a very strong set last set. They've had such just good runs in general. They got 4th at the Inkborn Fables Tactician's Crown, right? Just such good results, such strong players out of this team. But Virtus.pro, right, there's a reason that they're here, a reason that they've already denied such strong players from attending this event. I think Virtus.pro is going to have a lot more to say even after this series today, regardless of if they win or lose this.
Most definitely, and they are the team that is playing for the first for their club. They need the first in TFT for the club championships, and they've showed up. I wonder how many of these other teams are watching these games unfold, because we already saw in the first series that GP, he got a good augment, he got the God set up, and then they just kind of let him get GP3. They gave up on him. They went, okay, well, he's obviously going to win the game, so let's just let him win the game. But they can't afford to do that. They need to maybe try a little bit harder to roll deeper earlier. We've seen so much emphasis on the 4-1 roll downs, trying to deny other forecasts and getting first dibs at that. But GP seems to be left untouched when they know that they're going to be able to win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we see some very capped out boards here towards the end of the game. Shelty taking another loss there. Maris, right, still win streaking, still with that Gangplank, right? Such a key unit, such a strong unit. See exactly the power of it right here. Kian with the Yumi, right? 5 Battle Academia, 5 Prodigy, right? Having that Seraphine with 3 items. Not Seraphine 2, but still, it does not matter.
Yeah, still a very, very strong board, and I love the use of tempo. We talked about how taking the Stars Are Born, you can choose your opener pretty much, as long as you get a couple options in your shop, and you can make sure that you can win streak, you can be healthy. Look, even if you don't get that 5 streak, just having that extra HP and econ advantage to work with is very, very crucial in a 4v4 environment. So you don't need to be the win-out player, you don't need to be the one that's taking treasure hunt and then losing a lot of stage 2. That's perfectly fine, but you're still playing your part in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Kian here versus Shelty. Shelty with Varus 2, Twisted Fate 2, right? Such a strong board, but maybe not strong enough. Oh, it is going to be barely a win there, as Kian takes a hit.
And that's level 9 with all the 5-course upgraded as well. That's a very, very powerful board.
Yeah, it was closer than I would expect for that board to be, as strong as that board was. It's kind of crazy. And we do have a Ginsu's Reckoning here on this gangplank as well. Edge of Night. It's just such a good-looking gangplank there.
Did take a loss, though, down to 38 HP. So not win streaking the entirety of the rest of the game, but almost a 1-2-3-4 for the VP team. So very strong. Yeah, very strong showing. Not too sure exactly what happened towards the Falcons at the end. They just they looked like they were in an okay-ish spot, but once they got to their level 8 boards, it just wasn't enough to compete, really.
No, it kind of looks like it was just like they weren't in as good of spots as Virtus.pro this game, right? Everything kind of just like came out Virtus.pro and they're able to pilot it very well, right? Which is going to be the mark of a very strong TFT player. And right? Like I said earlier, a game of variance. Not every game is going to be one that you can win. Sure, it eliminates the variance when you are playing in this team format. With 4v4, you can control a lot more. But Virtus.pro really coming out to play here, really showing that they can capitalize and recognize these game spots very well. It's a key thing that I think they did phenomenally this game.
Yeah, and if we look at NCC's board, actually, I wanted to talk about that, playing around the keepers there with the sorcerers, which is a little bit more unconventional because you are playing a back-to-front comp and solo frontline with the gargoyles there, but just getting a little bit of a keeper shield. I guess it's good against the Akali. If she jumps towards the back line, you can keep your karma a little bit more safe. But definitely some stronger frontline options available. Maybe it was just they just need combat, and that was the best they could get.
Yeah, even with the Gwen, right? You have the Gwen in the front line, it's a little bit of extra shield for the tanks and for the Gwen as well, right? Once those tanks do fall over. But I think it's a good point as well, like you were saying, with that Akali dashing around, it's just a little bit of extra shield. It might be the difference between, your unit living and dying in just 1 or 2 Akali casts. Gonna have keepers as well here on this board. Keepers pretty popular and really strong for this one, right? Look at this setup. It's going, even Rise being in the second row doesn't really matter, and it's just going to be providing so much extra shield for the whole team. Yeah,
this looks a lot more solid. This is the kind of board you'd want to see the keepers on. And Maris did take a loss earlier, but now is back on a win, and I've gone on and on about this treasure hunt augment just being so powerful because of the scaling. And once you get towards this GP board, then it's going to be getting stunned for quite some time, so maybe we can take out this gangplank, or we can take out the Jarvan there. The gangplank gets a kill and does have access to the stretchy arm, so he's going to be able to start one-shotting all of those backline units. And look at that Radiant Rageblade. The thing about the Rageblade change is it starts ramping the attack speed, right? It's not the same as the Flicker Blades that we've seen in previous sets. Yeah. So even if he gets stunned, it doesn't really matter. He's going to have so much attack speed once he comes out of that stun, and then he can activate the stretchy arms and just go infinite.
Yeah, going infinite. That's exactly what he does. That Edge of Night as well to, reset just in case he is in any danger ever. Going to have that second life. As we're probably only going to be around here for another few rounds before one of the Virtus.pro members does claim first place, right? Going 1-2-3 is such a statement in game number 1 versus Team Falcons, right? This is just still so crazy. I know we were talking about predictions, like you were saying, oh, maybe 2-0 Falcons. I was like, oh, I might go to game 3. We might both be wrong. There's a world where Virtus.pro could 2-0 this. Might be speaking way too early, but, such a strong showing. I can't not help but kind of have that option in my mind as a possible route forward.
Yeah, we did have the bounce back there from Weibo Gaming, so it'll be interesting to see, if the Falcons can mimic that. Can they turn the tides around? And then if they win that second game, then they'll have the momentum for the third game in the series. So it's always interesting to see how that dynamic unfolds, but we did get to see VP very ecstatic and quite happy once they realized that they had won this first game.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that we haven't talked about too much yet, at least during this series, is the mental of a team, right? Who on a team is going to make sure, right, if you're Team Falcons, if you're the favorite team and you lose game 1, who's like, all right, no, it's okay, guys, doesn't matter, right? Let's just reset. We know we're strong. We know we're good. We can bounce back. That's hard to do, especially when you're so used to playing TFT as a solo game. You can keep your own composure. But how about the composure of 3 other people on your team, right? It's going to affect you in a lot of different ways.
One thing that's interesting to note is that in the first game, in the first series rather, when Weibo did that bounce back, you notice that it was hard for them, right? They had to verse a GP with infinite range. They had to go up against a protagonist, Zac, who they couldn't do any damage to them. So they could have, kind of come off the game, had comms go, look guys, this happened, it was hard, not really our fault, let's go for the next one. Here, it just looks like VP is clearing them across the board, not just with the GP, but the rest of the players are doing really well as well. So how can they bounce back and go, okay, either one, it wasn't our fault, sure, maybe they got some low rolls, or do they need to rethink their strategy and bounce back a different way?
Yeah, I could point to actually like every single Virtus.pro player here and be like, oh, they played this specific spot of a game like really, really well. And I think that's just speaks to how great this team is looking, right? There's, again, I've said it, but I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it even more, right? There's a reason that they upset such strong teams in the APAC qualifiers, and they're here now upsetting one of the favorite teams in the whole event. A lot of eyes, I think, looking towards Virtus.pro, like you called out as well, with the Club Championship needing this TFT victory. I'm being convinced slowly but surely here. I guess quickly but surely.
I mean, it's possible. We did actually see there that Maris, very, very strong GP board, but did actually lose up against Kian's board because the GP got stuck there onto the Leona. However, I mean, they are teammates, but if Kian wants to try and get this victory, it's very easy for him to move his Leona. Whereas you look at this keeper's boards, sure, they're playing on land. They probably have next to no ping.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard. They have to move a lot of the units. Maybe we can kind of group the front line and then just swap GP last second. The only downside is you do have that anti-heal provided there from the Udia, as well as the even Trout's Sunder there from the Kobako. So you do want GP in this middle position. I don't think Maris cares too much.
No, you see the players having fun with their little legends on the board right now. They're doing their little victory lap. And yeah, historically in TFT, if you have a keeper's board, you're not moving that thing last second unless you have the quickest hands in the world. It's just going to be parked there, and maybe you can make one or two little adjustments. But as we get into not perhaps the final round of the game, but the penultimate round, perhaps, as it's a close one, but even without moving at all, the GP, this composition does take the dub as we move forward into neutrals again and then into stage 7 before we wrap it up here. Been a long victory lap for Virtus.pro, but no, they deserve it. They deserve it.
I wonder how that plays into the mental. Honestly, if I had to sit there watching this victory lap from the opposition's team.
If I was Team Falcons, I'd be tilted.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want a long victory lap. But then again, maybe it's a good thing because they can be in communications. They can talk with one another. They have a lot more time to debrief. There's not that long of a break before they go into the second game. So having every extra minute definitely matters. They can go over all the mistakes, everything that went wrong, and then try and bounce back stronger.
Yeah, I'm sure as soon as Ningli, right, fell in 6th, already like, all right, how can we bounce back, right? What the strategy is going to be? What went wrong, I think, is so crucial to identify. If there is anything, right, identifiable, and there always is in TFT, right? In any single game that you can play, there's always like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done this, could have done this. There's always so much you could have done better. So I think a team as strong as Team Falcons, which as much competitive experience as they all do, they've probably already addressed those weaknesses, are going to be looking to come back swinging into the second game.
It's a shame that Maris didn't actually get to play this out as a nail biter because you saw him frantically rolling there towards the end, and I thought, oh no, he skipped the Lee Sin. Like, he could have played that for Executioner. But instead, what he wanted to do was guarantee that he got the rolls for his treasure hunt. Yeah. So he couldn't buy it. He needed to actually sell it. Sells his center, rolls one more time, and then it prints him a Lee Sin too. So that would have been really hype if it mattered, and that was the difference between making the strongest board. But no, good to see his APM still in check. So if he needs to do it again next game, he can do that.
He's gonna be ready. Here we go. Maris takes the win here in game number 1 of Virtus.pro versus Team Falcons.
1-0 Virtus.pro, and once again, our team that we say is the favorite is down in the series, and now one game away from moving down to the lower edge of the group stage. So, man, there's so much they need to do in this game. They got absolutely stomped. Those bottom 3 were way gone early into this game.
That's crazy. It is happening in the reverse order, though, as last series, right? T1, the favorite team, did come out ahead to start, but now the underdog, Virtus.pro, is coming out ahead, so maybe that dynamic is flipped a little bit. Maybe Team Falcons be like, all right, it's our turn. We got to focus up. We got to reverse sweep this.
Yeah, you mentioned stomp 3 players in the bottom 3, but also none of them were really in like a Crystal Gambit win-out position. We saw multiple times in the previous series that 2 players that bot forward, they had the potential to win out. Like, their board, if it just gone a little bit way differently, or if they just gotten a few more extra kills, maybe they could have gotten the resources to win out, but that didn't even look close.
Yeah, sometimes your spot's just doomed. In 4v4, if you don't have that clear win-out player, if you don't have the clear players that like have high HP and can flex around and figure it out, you don't have that, there's not much more you can do, there's not much you can ask for, and so they're just hoping for some better spots, some more luck in game number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking a look at some of the highlights here, right, really tells the story of how Virtus.pro is so dominant in this game, right? There were so many good spots that were well played by Kian Maris with that GP line. Maybe high rolling a little bit to hit that GP3 as early, right? But having such great items, such good rolls, and to be in second place alongside Kian as well, who was win streaking for the first 9 rounds around that Ezreal as well, right? That was just such a strong opener, played it super well, and was able to top 3 with Virtus.pro.
Yeah, and it looked really good there from Shelty as well, contesting the GP for a little bit, but only able to push levels, get to level 8, and then play for a 4th. And, you know, that's perfectly fine in a normal scenario when you have other players who are in that win-out position. But maybe he needed to rethink the strategy, because you can't just have one player playing for top 4. You need to have someone playing for first as well.
And one of the interesting things was the game was decided at 5-3 and we went to 7-1. The victory lap was crazy. The vibes are so incredibly high for Virtus.pro, and we see why here on our screen with the results. All top 3 going to Virtus.pro, playing very different compositions as well. We haven't seen Yuumi do too well so far in this tournament, and getting that second place with Kian and almost the first place was a great showing.
It's also interesting to see that the best performing composition from Team Falcons was around the 5 costs, right? It's around the Varus, the Twisted Fate, that Braum as well from Shelty, but it fell very early, right? We saw the top 3 play for several rounds, right? The victory lap was very long. I think that Team Falcons, you know, had maybe some decent starts in the early game, decent direction, but were not able to convert on that at all.
Yeah, and, you know, it was just a really, really strong tempo line, made sense getting to level 9, but normally if you don't have that strong tempo at the start, getting to level 9 is quite difficult. You can take those econ augments, but if you take an econ augment, play very lost streak orientated, and then get to level 9 and roll all the way down, you still lose to a lot of these reroll lines that are just too powerful, especially when enabled by augments or artifacts.
And we might give it up to luck and say, like, my spot's not that good, but ultimately their decisions are a part of this game. They control their own destiny. And so going into matchup number 2, it is do or die. Here in this match for Team Falcons, are they able to be the favorites that we projected them to be? We will see right after this break.
stone forevermore. I long for you, our future to bloom to the bitter end. Your looks make me weak, your skin to my cheek, making two roses. I want you to hold me. 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 I want you to.
Welcome back to TFT at the Esports World Cup, where our favorites, the Falcons, are down 0-1, and Virtus.pro is not trying to let them come back. Game number 2 is on the way.
Absolutely it is, and our predictions might already be in shambles about the Team Falcons 2-0 thing. I thought it was going to go the distance, but even I'm not even convinced of that anymore, as Virtus.pro just looks so strong in game number 1.
Yeah, they looked absolutely solid. All of their lines looked super clean. They had the win-out players. They had other players who were playing for HP preservation. They were denying units really, really well as well. So,
yeah,
you know, it's really hard to play up against a team like this because they were doing everything right.
And this team is a solid team, right? Obviously, we're talking about how Team Falcons is really good, but this team has all players that have made it to the Technician's Crown, which is the highest level of TFT gameplay, and now they're putting that on display here as a team.
Yeah, I think although Team Falcons, right, maybe looked a bit disappointing as to people's expectations game 1, I think they're going to turn up the heat here in game number 2. I think, right, what Tamara and I were saying, they had so much time in the end of last game to identify their weaknesses, right, what went wrong, and I really do think that they're going to come out swinging because, you know, they just have such star power, such good players on that team, right? 2 winners of EWC 2024 for TFT, 2 players who are so close at making it here, but are just strong in general, and this is kind of, you know, a big super team kind of Chinese players.
Yeah, I mean, the super team will show up, and We've seen a lot of really good gameplay, especially from Weibo before, representing their region and showing how that they can construct really, really niche boards. The Bronze for Life has been picked up quite a lot by a lot of these players, and you know, it makes sense when they have their final board. You go, oh, I could have done that. That's a good board. But getting there is really, really hard, because not only do you have to construct a board on the fly to make use of it in your transition phase, but you're still having to deny units. I don't know, like, if their team planners just got all of the units to deny, but even that's hard because you have to sell sometimes. You can't always play defense.
And that's one of the awesome parts about TFT as a game is there's some of these compositions that are pretty straightforward. If you get GP, you can just play the GP comp. You just find it on one of these websites and plug and play. You'll be good to go. But sometimes the game hands you options and augments and all these things that make this an incredible puzzle. Bronze for Life being a perfect example. And I'm curious to see how Team Falcons can use some of these puzzle mechanics, some of these different things to help propel them up the leaderboard.
I thought you were going to have a little hashtag ad in there for a second.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Not there.
Like, oh, careful. No, we're doing good, though, here. And Team Falcons, right, what can they pull out, though? Because not a lot of these teams have equal experience in a 4v4 format, I think, which is a very, very key thing. Team Falcons does have a decent amount of experience, so you would expect them, right? That's one of the reasons that they're one of the favorites of the event. But during every single tournament, right, the meta does change, and you got to be able to adapt on the fly. And I think that's something that we're going to be seeing even into, you know, the game 2 and maybe game 3 of this series, let alone tomorrow and the next few days of competition as well.
Yeah, and it's easy to look good when things are going well, right? When you've got the GP, you've got the treasure hunt, and you're playing your stock standard. You've done this 100 times on solo queue. It's when things, you know, it's when you get pressure, when you get your back against the wall, and you're playing in a 4-man environment, and it's not just your game. You've got your 3 comrades right next to you, and they want to make sure that you're doing well as well. So that's when you're really tested. And so maybe we'll see at the start of this game, VP might not get the best openers, they might not get clear direction, and we'll see if their experience shows through.
And the way TFT works, it is a game of variance at its very core. There are shop odds and odds that you see different things that make your boards better. But in this format, it's a best of 3. And 3 games is not a huge sample size for these teams. It's not that maybe this team is significantly better than this team, but in these 3 games that they had, or maybe even 2 games, their spots were significantly better.
Absolutely. And I just remind myself, I should look at my own notes more, because I wrote down a very key thing for Virtus.pro. That's that they are the giant slayers, right? In the qualifiers, they beat such a super team, and they are the giant slayers, right? And going up against Team Falcons, they are doing the exact same thing yet again.
I wonder if that's like a club thing, because I remember I used to watch a lot of CSGO VP, and they were always known as the giant slayers. So maybe when they put on that jersey, they become, you know, off. Yeah, exactly. It's I don't know. It's a scary polar bear. Maybe they're just it's built into their brand.
No, I mean, one of these things, being a competitor, right, formerly myself in both TFT and other titles as well, if you're the underdog, you got no real pressure on your back. It's like, okay, I'm expected to lose the series, but what if I win, though?
Yeah.
Like, that would be pretty cool. And you don't have that pressure of like, oh my God, we're the favorites. We have to live up to expectations, or it's going to be such a big disappointment. You're kind of just like playing with house money if you're Virtus.pro, and you get that buff from being, you know, under that club as well. It just got everything right going for them at this point.
Yeah, and it seems like their signing matches their team's morale, their team history, and so excited to see them here in game number 2, which if they're able to get off to a good start and really 2-0 them here, they'll make a huge statement. But here we go, loading into the game for game number 2 between Virtus.pro and Team Falcons with a Braum encounter.
Ooh, Braum encounter, let's go. Thank you very much, CLE. Here we go, Tamura. Game number 2. Can Team Falcons bring it back and send us the distance into a game 3? Or Virtus.pro going to do the same exact thing here again? We are on board with Maris, the game number 1 winner. Gangplank to victory was the story there, but surely that can't happen again 2 times in a row.
Unfortunately, got dropped the Jin. Maybe it could have been that could in a different world. Yeah, that could have been a Gangplank. It does get some of the supporting units there. We saw a Jin 2 actually skipped up in a previous game, just because if you don't have the front line, you're going to be spending a lot of money on a strong back line. You're going to be losing rounds. Probably go win-loss, win-loss, and then you're going to be really broke. And money's super crucial, not just in regular TFT, but when you need to play defense as well.
Yeah, some newer players at TFT make that mistake all of the time. They're just like, oh, my carry, right? That's the really cool unit. I want to upgrade it. I want to itemize it. And then your front line falls over, and then it's like, oh, where did my backline go? It just got eliminated instantly.
There was a Jin pair as well there, so they might be faced with the same decision, but was holding on to a Zac and an Aatrox. So if you can 2-star either one of them and then, you know, get some items onto them, then the Jin 2-star makes a lot more sense.
Absolutely.
As we are going to see, Zac and Kale. I don't think Kale's used too much as a build-up, but is often kept because if you do get the option to play KO reroll, then that's a line. And we've seen a lot of Zac reroll, but more with the hero augment. So you know, the perfect form, it's a little bit different. You play it a little bit of a different way, but KO definitely can show up if you have the right items.
Absolutely. Personally, I was playing Kale a lot on the PBE right before I went to live, and I was having a lot of fun with the composition. Kale, one of these very cool units that scales if you go up levels, right? Level 6, that big first breaking point, and we get more gold augments here, right? That's been the story for us the past couple of games, but we have Warpath potential coming through. You think that's going to be clicked on? No, reroll.
Didn't want to go for it. It's a little bit too risky. You'll be kind of telling your team, guys, you need a sack now. I need to win these rounds.
I need to win. It's me. I'll me.
Play a little bit too selfish, but no, we've seen a lot of these players. They're playing in a team-orientated way, as we saw two, you know, very risky options taken away. The ranged Mundo as well as the hefty rolls before was rolled over quite quickly. Picking up something like Raining Gold is very, very safe. You can do a lot with that. You can push levels, you can play reroll, you can play offense, you can play defense. There's a lot to go with.
Yep.
And when you don't have any clear upgrades or clear directions, this is something that you kind of take, try and kill as many units as possible, then figure out your direction later.
Absolutely. And we get Unstoppable here, probably going to be the pickup. And oh, there's going to be a Gold Collector, a Rage Blade. Not Stretchy Arms yet, however. It is a double strike, but perhaps that could be helping out to farm some early gold here for Li Xiao.
And hasn't actually opted into using the Fruit Remover yet, so is going to just be sticking with the double strike. So not necessarily locked into that GP, as we know that some players potentially might want to just use it straight away, so they can get one earlier chance of finding that. You can play into some ranged options here if you push levels and then eventually get towards your Ashe. I'm sure that's something that's entirely possible, but for the majority of players, this position is looking like a very standard GP line, as we do see Maris is picking up the double dupes, because we know that if you're going to be playing reroll, you need these extra dupes.
Absolutely right. Econ still decent, making 10 gold that round. Have the extra dupes. When we have a Mundo in the front line, Mundo, such a strong tank unit at that 2 cost with the Juggernauts, right? Mundo is able to stand the test of time, it feels like, in a lot of these compositions.
And it looks like Maris has actually sold the GP. I was just about to say we haven't seen too much of this Mundo Jin line, but if you play it, then you're rolling a lot of the 2 costs. You're in a great spot to deny GP and Kobukos, even Katarinas if that's being taken as well. As we have Kian, who's taken a GP line as well. We already saw the 2 cost reroll. Oh, okay, so not having access to an extra 2 cost means that we're going to be staying on level 3 and not getting as much value as potential, because only sitting on level 3.
Yeah, sitting on level 3, right? Having that one reroll. Midas touch as well on the GP. Some extra gold perhaps being generated through that. Not going to be looking to win streak anytime soon, however.
Yeah, so too much value there. You need to be fielding pairs of 2 costs, different 2 costs, and then you'll be getting a free roll for every pair. But only having access to 3 means that we'll be staying level 3 and building up econ that way. However, usually with the way you play this augment is by the time you get to 3-2, you're going to be stacked up so many extra rerolls that you can just use all of your free stuff. And I think we just did see a Warpath, so someone is game enough to take it. Or maybe that's why we didn't want to see it picked up previously, because 2 players with Warpath?
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary, right? If you're the one that loses out on that trade, it kind of takes a big bite into your whole game plan there, and you're not going to want to be in that position. Very, very hard to recover.
And that is exactly the type of 2 cost that you want to be picking up from Warpath, the Mundo 2-star. So an absolutely unkillable beast. Unfortunately, not able to slam anything, and has actually taken a 2-unit loss here. Sitting on level 4, so is going to be pre-leveled up to level 5 after this first carousel. So maybe we'll get ourselves a Warmogs. Maybe losing the first couple of rounds is perfectly fine, because you don't deal that much damage in the early stages of the game. As long as you have a game plan and you can start dishing out more damage later, you proc Warpath a lot more quickly in the later rounds when you're killing and winning by more HP.
Yeah, absolutely. This round as well, looking like it's going to be a loss, but not wanting it to be the case for that long, as you were saying. Is able to kill out 1 unit there, which, you know, hey, it's a little bit of HP. That could be the make or break later on, but pre-leveled to 5, as you were saying. Not first pick, though, but I don't know who's going to be grabbing a belt here unless it's just on like a 3-cost unit, and it's on a 1-cost with the Rel. So perhaps we'll see that Warmugs come through. But there are some good components here on some 3-costs. The sword, tier.
Yeah, and did have access to the sword as well, sitting just there on the benches, the bow already planted on towards the Kale, which meant multiple different outs. So Warmog's great for the Mundo, but we still need other items to be able to slam anything additional. Didn't see any GPs there on towards the Carousel, so not as high priority. Kian does pick up the Kobako there with the bow.
Yeah, for the GP comp.
Yeah, exactly.
So
usually
perfect.
Very high priority, so you know, that's great that you're low HP, which makes sense. If you're playing GP, you're not really playing to be super strong in early stage 2 because the items are quite important. You bounce back in stage 3, and that's where you farm your money.
Absolutely. So if you're able to bounce back in the end of stage 2, that is even better for you. And this is a very similar position that we've seen here for the last game. Not with Milo specifically, it was going to be Kian, who was in a similar spot last game with that Shojin, with the dual gauntlet as well, around the Ezreal, around the Prodigies, and it was a 9-win streak last game. Unfortunately, not the same situation. The front line is not quite as good for Milo here, but still a solid opener nonetheless.
Yeah, and this is great because now you can flex between both playing around the Sorcerers and the Yuumi. Yuumi, a bit more of a backup after slamming that Shojin, as it's a bit more viable to go towards Karma. The only thing that I'm a little bit worried about there is the lack of frontline items. Usually in TFT, if you have 3 items in your carry, that's great. However, in the early mid-game, you want to split up your items. You want to try and get some frontline, try and get some backline, so that worst case scenario, if your Krogs or your Wolves aren't too ideal, you're at least going to be having a couple of items on either end. If he gets only damage components from his Krogs here, it's going to be really scary.
Yeah, rough stage 3. If you got no tanks, right, that Ezreal is just going to be falling down like some wet paper there. And not going to be looking good. Ning Li, one of the players, right, 100 HP, along with Li Tuchuan as well. So last game we saw 2 members of Virtus.pro win streak into the first neutral round, and it might be Team Falcons doing it for game number 2 here.
And this is awesome positioning here from Ning Li. So similar to the Katarina, how we have those kind of vertical lines on each side to split the carries. Instead, he's not doing it for Katarina, he's doing it there back for his Kalista. So Kalista has that snipe and she can hit the backline. However, if something big like a Mundo stands in the front of the way, you're not able to snipe that corner carry. So by splitting up the frontline units, you can create that little gap and then really throw the spear into the backline.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great call, right? It's these little positioning differences that make a big difference in the grand scheme of things, right? That could just win a round, keep a win streak going, just have such good impact into the stage 3 of the game.
Doesn't look like it's actually worked out here because we can see there's the Syndra in the backline, but because there's a Xin Zhao, and a Rel too as well. So
unfortunate.
Yeah, not able to snipe out all of the backline units there. So did well to get a 4 streak, but unfortunately is going to be broken there. But at least, you know, the Falcons have brought 1 5 streak home. I do think it was quite lucky previously seeing with VP getting multiple, because that's quite rare, let alone in
definitely.
a 4v4 having both of them be a 5 streak.
It was close in this game, but not in the cards. Li Tuchuan, the only member of Team Falcons, only person in the game to be at 100 HP so far. We have a little bit of crew there on that board. Checking back in with Li Xiao. We have 3 items on this gangplank. It still is double strike, but we might be seeing that re-rolled here soon for some stretchy arms. Going to be contested potentially by Kian there as well.
Yep. And we do see another Prodigy player picked up there. Also Trade Sector there for the crew, so that's really good at enabling getting those early rerolls. And the great thing about Trade Sector, normally you don't want to use it on every single roll. You can save it for crucial points where you think you need to roll. However, it's great on the crew because you can roll early. You don't even have to wait until most time you do your roll down on 3-1 right before you are forced to go to level 5. However, you can just roll on the low levels and look what it's rewarded him with.
Yeah, we already have a Sever 3. We got 5 Malphites, have a Ziggs too already actually on 3-1. That's a little bit
I feel like they
early.
always have the Ziggs. Every time we've had a crew game,
There's like no Shens there.
Yeah, they just spawn in.
All right, now we got to see. I was actually listening to some of the talent backstage, and some people were saying, all right, as soon as you hit one of those crew units, either Malphite or Sivir, just push to level 6 and you can roll there. So I'm curious to see if some of the players agree with that strategy, or if they'll just keep rolling on level 5 until they hit both the Malphite and the Sivir as well. I have to check back in soon to see which route has been gone there.
Yeah, especially with the Trade Sector, you know, they can kind of just chill for a little bit, maybe use the free rolls, so even if they're not level 6 because it's too expensive, they can just use a couple free rolls on 5, then push to level 6, and yeah, with the crew odds not changing after they start to get those 3 stars, that's going to be perfectly fine because you can just 3-star everything. I would argue it's a little bit more awkward without the Malphite 3, because hitting the Sivir 3 not as crucial. If you hit the Malphite 3, then you can start to push levels and be strong, but we'll have to see if they're going to favor trying to get that 3-star online first.
Absolutely, makes sense. The Prodigy's here. Portable Forge is going to be a tempting offer, right? Could get some very crucial items like a Mana Zane, That's not going to be here, though. Mogul's mail for frontline, Mittens as well, but what do you think about these options here tomorrow?
Yeah, Moguls is pretty decent. I mean, we have enough backline items. We have a nice mix, right? They've done very well to go frontline and backline. However, Snipers is going to be picked up. This has a lot of outs to be really powerful in the Sorcerer line, usually. We play towards that Gwen. It makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
However, with the Prodigies, I'm not entirely sure. I know that it'll be okay on Yuumi, as Yuumi does have a lot of range.
Yeah,
and as the fight goes on...
reach very far, right?
As the fight goes on, it might be decent. But then it feels bad because you're missing out on a third item and having triple damage items on towards your carry. In fact, Yuumi sometimes doesn't... what?
Game playing 3? Where did that come from?
Oh, man.
Wait,
so
what?
They don't even get to play defense. The too much value from Kian has given him so many free rerolls that on 3-2 we just send all of our rolls, pick up a double dupe, and boom, we have a GP3. We can push to level 7. Give me 1 rise, please, and I'm guaranteed top 4.
What is that high roll? Virtus.pro, they are just finding themselves in such good situations. Now, it's not like this will just guarantee you, win the game. It can be beaten, and maybe perhaps even if Kian goes first, right? If the rest of their team goes into the bottom 4, it's not a guarantee, but definitely in a very good spot, right? Looking at NCC1 as well with that early Sivir. Still losing the last round because the crucial unit with that Malphite has not been upgraded yet. But we do have Mogul's maybe generating some money, give some extra tankiness there for that front line.
Yeah, so this is a great display of why splitting up your items is so important, because having the backline items there on towards the Sivir and then having the Declaw and the belt there on towards the Malphite meant that now when we get this option of this gold generating item, if we had triple Malphite items, we could have taken a backline. However, if we have too many backline items, we can take a front line. And that's perfectly great here for the Malphite. Unfortunately, it does have Declaw, so not the armor that he usually would have liked. Yeah. And it looked like he stood still for a little bit there, so the splitting there from Ningley's is not going to work the way he might have wanted. The casts are still going to be going on towards the Malphite, but looks like has managed to pick himself up a Samira, and all of these mostly AD units are still getting stuck on this Declaw Malphite.
Yeah, I believe Ningley had Unstoppable, so the unit charged, and then so Malphite didn't move, and it's like, okay, the positioning doesn't end up mattering, actually, which is a little bit of a funny interaction there. But NCC, right, maybe because of that, maybe because of not, is going to be winning the round. There's a Yuumi there. These AP players could be picking that one up here.
Yeah, and NCC was actually already playing defense with the crew rolling and then passing up a Yuumi, taking a Yuumi there. Yeah. As you can see, Shelter, he does manage to pick it up, but we'll have to have a look around here. Does pick up the Xante, that makes perfect sense. Does get the Warmogs there towards the Malphite, and so going to be getting a lot of stats, defensive stats there from the Moguls, and any little bit of extra econ helps because it's all about getting those 3 stars online as soon as possible.
Definitely. That's where you hit those really, really important breakpoints, the really important power in that crew composition. We're just a little bit away from another one, perhaps, because there's a lot of gold to roll here, and there's already one more Malphite, a Shen coming through as well. Got a couple more rolls potentially. Warmogs has been slammed. Where's Malphite 3? There it is. Levels to 6 immediately. Getting to put that Gnar in for 2 Sniper. And all of a sudden, NCC looks to be in a great spot to win streak into Stage 4 and perhaps beyond.
Yeah, so you kind of answered our question before about whether or not these players are willing to stay on level 5 and keep rolling for both Sivir and Malphite. And yeah, I guess I would argue that it's the context around the Malphite. And it seems that NCC agrees that you really do need to make sure that you have your frontline sorted before you have the luxury of pushing levels, as we do get a close-up of Kian's board, who has 4 free rerolls. And the thing is, normally when you hit your units, when you play the too much value and you get your rerolls, you're okay, great, now I have a couple of extra rerolls. Doesn't matter. It does matter, because now he's going to be playing towards all of these mentors, and how are you supposed to play defense against a GP comp when you have to hold on to every single mentor?
You don't, I think. I think that's the simple answer. Maybe you can hold one, but it's just going to be, okay, the one you hold, I'm going to hit the other ones. Having so much gold, so many rolls, and this composition really does excel and hits that crucial, hey, I can win the game breakpoint when you get things like that Yasuo 3 as well. Koboko 3 you don't really need, but it is nice if you can land on it. But the amount of gold you get if you can just level up to 9, right, maybe 10, just cap out your board that way as well. Just in such a strong spot there for Kian.
Yeah, as you can see, Ningley's playing around a very standard Soul Fighter opener, but is obviously leaning in towards the Sorcerers. We've seen the AP items. They do well on the AD units. That's a great thing about the Shojin Slam, is you can actually use it on towards the Callista, play towards a lot of AD units, but then picks up the Spark and then starts holding on to outs like the Jarvan, and you really want to be getting into Sorcerers from there.
Absolutely. We see Lee Chuchan here having the units on the bench for a Yuumi pivot as soon as that does come through. As soon as she's found, we have the Prodigy emblem right onto that rail for now. And Yuumi items on the Malzahar.
That makes a lot more sense. The snipers focus on towards the Malzahar if you can get through the front line.
True.
You kill a couple of units, it's going to spread. If you are on correct side and they don't have a solo front line, then a lot of times you can kill off some of the right side and then spread towards the back line. And then maybe if they bunch their units a little bit, you can tick it over and you'll be getting a lot of value.
Yeah, speaking of value, look at the value on this Mogul's Malphite as well. It's just popping out gold left and right as long as that round keeps going forward. NCC generating so much economy with that. That's the power of Malphite 3.
I mean, it's doing really, really well. And you know, decent kills there with the Malzahar. Having the Storm Blender, you can see all the Storm in the background, just kind of killing everything. As we do get another look at some other GP boards, is the favoritism of rolling down on 3-7 as opposed to 4-1 is very, very common. I'm sure we're going to see more of it. We do see a complete pivot, because if we're going to be rolling early or we're going to be doing a full transition, we want to make sure that we're not holding on to any clutter or garbage on our board, so we can try and make maybe just that one extra econ interval.
Yeah, absolutely. An extra econ, which, Lulu comes through, so we get that 30 gold breakpoint. But these next few rolls are going to make or break Ning Lee's game. And we see Karma pair. We see Karma 2 in just a few rolls. That is exactly what Ning Lee wanted to come back in this game. Only thing that could have been better is finding a random Gwen on one of those rolls. Maybe a Jarvan pair as well, but these items are going to be pretty solid as well as a power-up. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, he gets efficient. That's exactly what you want to see there on towards the Karma. And this is crucial because Ning Lee's didn't exactly, I want to say, have the best augment. He had the most flexible ones. Like, he had the Raining Gold. He can do a lot with that. They need a win-out player, and so the fact that he's able to stop rolling now, sure, it means he's not going to be able to play as much defense as he would have liked to, but it means that he can push forward, and from his position, he has to get to level 9. He's going to be able to get to level 9, make sure that hopefully Gwen is not denied too much, and then he's going to be in a good spot to play for first. Maybe not against the GP, but at least the top 2 finish.
I was going to say, that's kind of the name of the game right now for Team Falcons, is who can surpass Kian that board, because Kian's already on level 8, has GP, has the stretchy arms, has Rage Blade, Edge of Night, perfect items. It's going to be really hard, but we get a Prismatic augment to end off here at 4-2. Invested Mess Hall as well, potentially. 1 buff, 2 buff not really being looked at here.
Most of the pros really do not like this augment. If you're ever going to take it, it would be in this setup for sure. You do have that infinite stalling there with the Mundo, so if you get the Mundo 3 online and then you have all those snipers handing out
keeps ramping them up.
Exactly. So an augment that most players would pretty much just insta-skip, but to be honest, I didn't really see too many other great options, so it definitely makes sense in his spot. This is one of those times where you have to kind of weigh up, are bad augments good enough in the right spot?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything in TFT is contextual. You can look at one and be like, oh, it's a bad augment, and just skip through it. But you're like, wait, you got to assess where you are in this game, where everybody else is in the game as well, and be like, hey, it's actually not that bad. My comp does, as you were saying, the Mundo is this everlasting tank, so it gets a lot of value in that composition.
Kian's taken an interesting stance there. He already had the GP3. I saw the double juice, but I think he took Invested to play defense, because there's no way he needs extra rolls. There's no way he needs extra money. But he's taking it, and look, he's holding on to 2 Yuumis.
Holding on to 2 Yuumis, playing that big defense game, right? That denial. It's what composition, Kian's probably asking himself, what composition can outscale me, can take out this GP. Yuumi is one of them, a very strong capped out Yuumi board, can just rip through the Edge of Night with 1 cast and then take him out with a second one. So I think kind of doing due diligence here. Maybe there weren't other good options for combat power either to lead into this decision.
I would argue it's a little bit scary, because everyone's looking at Kian as the win-out player. The VP's kind of written him off as, okay guys, we just need to play the best we can because we have someone locked in for first. This definitely makes it a little bit more risky. So Kian's obviously assessed all of his opposition very well and go, okay, how high can they cap? What can I do to slow them down? And has decided this is the best way.
Yeah, Maris hitting Mundo 3. Maybe that's the new win-out player, right? We're all looking at Kian. But Maris was like, oh, no, it's going to be me, guys, actually. We're talking about that Mess Hall augment. Still a long way to go for this composition to get into maybe lobby winning form, because we're at level 6. We only have 7 gold to work with right now. But, hey, look at the bench there. That's another Yuumi being held here. So Virtus.pro all doing their due diligence holding these Yuumis.
Yeah, they're all working really, really well together. And we are going to be able to see the Mess Hall coming out. So Jin actually locked with the attack speed there, but great because the Rage Blade just gives him that converted attack speed into AD. So I don't know how well it works with the Messwall, but honestly, if you have an unkillable Mundo, any extra damage is healthy.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, in fact, there, just from that round witnessing. We'll have to see it against some stronger comps a bit later as we get into the Stage 4 carousel here. Nothing too exciting in this carousel. There is a Seraphine for perhaps these Prodigy compositions, but what good is it if you don't even have the Yumis, right? All these Yumis being denied.
There's a tier there for the Jarvan. It's a very good pickup for any Sword players. Leona 2 was already hit. We saw before on the roll down, so Leona Chain usually would be pretty decent as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, like no Yumis. I'm sure that would have been picked up because they're playing so well on the defense there. Any extra Yumis is going to be very, very valuable. But this is looking to be, I would say, a relatively lower cap lobby. We don't have any crazy,
looks like
any crazy artifact interactions. GP triple econ, so not going to be as strong as possible. And Maris is hit, but still is level 6, so I wouldn't say he high rolled in his position. It did take him a little while to get there.
Yeah, definitely took a little bit longer than perhaps anticipated. But the good thing is that Mars was able to stabilize in terms of the HP loss, right? 79 going to be in first place by a 17 HP margin. And their teammate, Kian, right, is in that second place. So still looking good there. We did get this red buff and blue buff for the Ziggs as well. 3 items on Malphite, 3 items Ziggs, 3 items on the Sivir as well. And of course, that power-up is now on the Ziggs as opposed to the Sivir.
Yeah, this is actually a really decent pickup here, having the red buff and the blue buff, because the blue buff with the changes to this set is now it can really go on anyone. Realistically, before, blue buff was one of those very greedy items where if you wanted it, you really wanted it. Otherwise, it was pretty much useless. But now just getting that, a little bit of extra mana gen, although a little bit unconventional there on towards the Ziggs, as he's usually a bit more of an attack speed based unit, less of a caster. He does a lot of damage with his auto attacks, so not as favorable, but hey, if you need the red buff, you need the red buff.
I mean, the power-up does come into play there. It was the hyperactive power-up where takedowns grant 90% attack speed. That decays over 3 seconds, but hey, that's a lot of autos coming through, right? Getting value there for that Ziggs unit.
Yep, and as we do see another bronze for life playing into it, playing into all-out Cassante. So this just must be the standard. It's written in all their notepads. They've done this. They've done this 100 times. I'm sure of it. So if they can play towards it, but honestly, quite scary. I do believe it was the gold collector playing off of the GP, then bullied off GP as a potential line. And if you get towards this position and they must be playing good defense on this Cassante and Akali, because this hurts to watch.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how much gold Li Xiao had to work with, maybe you just naturally miss, right? A bit in my, solo queue games, right? Just rolling in this spot. You roll level 8 to 0 every turn, you're like, where's the units, man? It's just can't hit. And Li Xiao's in that position in a team format where players are probably denying anyway, just making it that much more difficult. Not going to be falling this round, but dropping dangerously low to perhaps be eliminated when we get into stage 5. Shelty as well, level 9, trying to stabilize. That Kale is doing a lot of work, but it is just a tier 2 Kale. So Shelty as well drops to 3 HP. And this is Team Falcons in perhaps 7th and 8th, unless they can make a miracle happen here.
And Li Xiao did manage to find the Rise too, but honestly at this point it's just a waste of money because he really just needs some of those other upgrades. As you do see Shelty taking the Warpath into forward thinking, so that's like, that's gambling on the, well, my early games didn't go so well, so maybe if I just take this, I can proc it on stage 4 and just win all of those matchups, but unfortunately the strategy is not working out super well, as we do get another look at Kian, who's rolled down all... Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. He's rolled down all of his gold to hold on to a Cassante 2 on bench, which makes sense. Not going to cap as high as GP, but you can see why it's so crucial, because playing all-out Cassante 1 is not good.
Yeah, no, you're just going to lose the game with that. And I think it was exactly what I was mentioning earlier, that Maris is now the, hey, I'm the one-out player. Kian's like, I'll take a step back. I will use my gold as a resource to propel you forward and take out these players of Team Falcon, to send them out in 7th and 8th. I think Virtus.pro is playing so well as a team to recognize these specific situations.
Yeah, it feels like Falcons just can't play the game. They're doing standard lines. They're doing what they know. They're doing what they can. But it seems like the VP players are just putting themselves in a good position and then really capitalizing on it. And they're showing up with a 4v4 mindset, and it's great to see because these are the things you wouldn't think about in solo queue.
Team Falcons isn't necessarily doing anything wrong, but Virtus.pro is doing everything right.
Exactly. We do see Lixiao managing to find the Cassante 2 eventually. And look what happens when you get the Cassante 2 online. Absolutely unstoppable.
Strong.
Yeah, it's strong. You have bronze for life. Everyone on the team is doing work, and there's just so many different carries, and even just a TF1 on the backside. I'm sure this TF is outputting a lot, and now he's starting to buff up the rest of the team, giving extra resources. And to be honest, the Akali 2 doesn't really matter at this point because we don't have items for it. Nope. Maybe we could move over the TF items as well, but for now, at least he's found someone else to hold on to them.
Yeah, gonna look like a TF power up here, perhaps Storm Bender. We do already have some of that. Oh, it's Sky Piercer as well. Okay. See here's some people getting real excited in the arena here. A lot of hype happening.
It's great to be in this environment. Even on the games that we're not casting, we're hearing background noises because everyone's going absolutely crazy being at an event like this.
Yeah, and they're going to perhaps in the next couple of rounds here because this might seal some fates here. Lixiao on the left is so dangerously low, but is that all-out Cassante going to be able to hold on for another round? It looks like it is versus Ning Li. And on the right, Shelty's Kale is trying to tear through NCC, but there's the Sivir, there's the Ziggs in the back, and it's going to be able to hang on as well while NCC1 drops to 5 HP, while Ning Li and Li Tuchuan, though, fall low as well. There are 3 members, once again, of Virtus.pro, at least currently, sitting in the top 3. But look at these HP totals. They are so close here, Tamura.
This is terrifying from Falcons, the way that they're playing the game. Shelty is playing so risky. We got bronze for life here from Lixiao. But these boards, once they come online, are insane. And this is what I was talking about when it's a little bit scary there for playing with players like Kian, who've used their invest to try and deny Cassante for as long as possible. And effectively what he's done with that is brought down the HP totals of Lixiao all the way down to 1 life. However, now he's thrown his chances of having a guaranteed first out the window because it's done well. He's done well to put them in this position, but he's not really going to be the player who's guaranteed to kill them. And I would argue that the Cassante board would have a chance to go up against them. As I say that, is struggling a little bit with the front line of Leona, but is going to have enough.
Backline.
Yep. This Cassante is so powerful. Has so many buffers. And look at the GP. Yeah, GP is struggling.
GP could do it. Well, no more cast and does. And Shelty falls in 8th place here by just the slimmest of margins. Team Falcons is going to be going out first here.
Yep, and you can see that NCC is just on 1 life as well, but we do still have 2 other Falcons players who are potentially on 1 life. Maris still very powerful. Kian as well has done well to preserve as much HP as possible. So it's really just going to be up to, I guess, Milo to just try and hold on for a little bit longer as well.
Yeah, it has to be, right? Each round could be decided by the thinnest of margins, right? It could be, oh, can I sack against a teammate and maybe preserve a little bit more HP? It's some positioning differences. It all comes down to this, right? Being knocked into the loser's bracket after day 1 is not where you want to be, especially as a favorite. Can Team Falcons send us to a game 3? But Virtus.pro just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Udyr 3 there picked up for Kian. Maris as well is still upgrading, slamming some more items, right? Virtus.pro in such a good spot as there's just 5 seconds into the next round, Tamura.
Yeah, as we see a lot of these boards all looking very capped, and it's really just funny looking at Kian's bench just holding on to so many of those 2-star forecasts, even still denying the Akali 2-star. So, you know, itemizing the Rise. We've even got items onto the Rise now. We've got TF, we've got Rise. That's perfectly fine. We're not going to be playing around this Akali anyway. Huge J4 ult into towards the backline there. All of the sorcerers getting stunned there.
That's a win for Lixiao.
Yep. Oh, no, still looking really close.
Almost jinxed it.
Kama's got through the edge of 9 there towards
NCC
the Cassante.
falls.
NCC out.
What about Li Tuchuan here? Yes, this is important. It looks like Li Tuchuan is going to fall as well. Is it going to be falling harder than NCC? No, it's not. And all of a sudden, it's still anybody's game here. That was such an important 1 HP difference there.
Yeah, every single tiny positioning mistake in the early and mid game, you'll be thinking about that if you lose out by 1 HP, because this is where it all comes down to. As we do see, look at the Miller's board is decently strong, but I'd say the front line's lacking a little bit. It's obviously going to be denied a lot of the J4s from some of these other comps. That's the thing about these players contesting all of the same forecasts.
Yeah, all eyes on Lixiao here. If Lixiao falls, Virtus.pro will have 1-2-0. It's going to be going up against Kian, and Kian's board just keeps getting better and better. Can this Gangplank go toe-to-toe with the Cassante? The Edge of Night does proc first for the Gangplank. Cassante finds him again, and Gangplank goes down. It looks like Li Xiao can hold on for at least one more round, dropping Kian down to potentially 1 life remaining as well.
Yeah, we just saw that Cassante got onto the GP first, which meant the Edge of Night procced, and then Cassante still had hit. So then when they get onto the 1v1, Cassante has the advantage.
Huge difference.
Yeah, GP goes knocked out. And he doesn't have access to a fully capped out board because he's used so much of his gold invested into taking out the other players. And it did well. Like, it looked like he was going to send the Cassante player out. However, Li Xiao's been holding on very well, and it was good for a moment, but now it's very scary.
Super, super scary. 6 Sork board from Ning Li, but Ning Li just took a very, very big hit as well. So now it's 2 players. If Li Xiao or Ning Li fall by a lot of units, the same situation happens. Virtus.pro 2-0s. They are going to need Kian to fall, and then both Ning Li and Li Xiao to hold on. This is a rough spot to make that all work, however, as there's some roll downs, there's extra items coming through from the neutrals, but not too much here. Milo not able to find that Gwen too, but still very good items throughout this whole board.
Yeah, and did have access to the duplicator, but would have had to use it relatively early. Ning Li's having to make I'd say suboptimal Gwen items, stacking the Titans there.
To say the least.
Yeah, interesting that I actually picked up the lucky gloves, and you can only see 1 lucky gloves. However, it's interesting because they've used it for the crit chance there on towards the Karma. So actually using some of those extra gloves, I do believe you get 1 more extra copy.
Oh,
and it looks like
this is Ning Li going up against Li Xiao. So it's Team Falcons on Team Falcons. One of them is going to fall here, and it is Ning Li. What happens to Kian? Is Kian able to hold on? It might not even be enough because it's minus 10 HP for Ning Li as well. And yes, it looks like Kian has held on. So Virtus.pro will win 2-0 versus Team Falcons tomorrow. What an upset.
Incredible showing here from VP. We actually got to hear a little bit of clapping in the background there because
they're excited.
Yeah, a little bit of matchmaking RNG, and before the fight even started, they knew it. They knew they had to go up against each other, and there was nothing you can do when you both have 1 HP. And so I said it was a bit dicey with the way Kian played this game, but it ended up working out perfectly because he slowed down their HP preservation. He made sure that it took forever for the other players to be able to hit things like Cassante, was even denying Yumi's, things like that. It meant that he wasn't as strong. Look, Kian is probably not going to win this game now, so he's going to lose stats, but he's going to get MVP for playing defense. Incredible defense there from Kian, so very well done to them. And what a great performance from VP as a whole. As you said, it didn't look like Falcons have been making that many mistakes, but man, VP have been playing well.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I think that's exactly it, right? Team Falcons wasn't doing anything wrong. It's just Virtus.pro is doing everything right? I'll say it again and really want to highlight that. Just, I've talked a lot about Virtus.pro, right? Just making really good decisions when they are presented to them, and it's just kind of a flawless execution here.
Yeah, I mean, they've done absolutely well, and they've showed up, and I like that narrative of VP, not necessarily the underdogs, but the giant slayers. It seems to be the way that they go, and they've done exactly that. Incredible showing, and I feel like they've high rolled like a couple of their positions, but they've just played it so smoothly, and so it just looked really, really difficult for the Falcons to do anything, and so it'd be interesting to see how they bounce back or how they kind of assess this game. And same with VP, are they going to reassess their game, or are they going to go, okay, it went so well for us, let's just keep doing what we do?
I mean, I think you got to do both, right? If you're Virtus.pro, you have to be like, all right, that went really well, but what happened and how can we make sure that that happens again, right? There's maybe a formula to this. There's not just something you can always just fall in on and be like, all right, hey, we're going to just do it again. Let's do it again. It takes some effort. It takes some work. A lot of hard work to find themselves in this spot.
Yep, as we do see Cassante going up against the Rise. We're going to get our final fight here. We do see Maris knocked out in 3rd, Kian in 2nd, so gave up the first place, but that doesn't really matter. Played excellent teamwork, and what a great showing there for the Game 2 2-0 sweep.
Oh, absolutely beautiful.
Virtus.pro moving on in the group stage to the upper bracket. And surprisingly, Team Falcons down to the bottom. So they're not out yet, but will have to fight back tomorrow. They cannot drop another series and stay in this EWC.
And now I can confidently say that we were both